Hey, I'm Vince Polito, and I help people live their purpose and maximize their power. And this video is titled Law of Attraction Hacks. Now, this is an extremely important video for you if you've heard of Law of Attraction, you're using this principle of Law of Attraction, and you're struggling with the Law of Attraction, and you don't understand maybe why you're not getting what you want, or you've been creating things and manifesting things using this principle but not experiencing fulfillment. And maybe there's also just a general frustration around not being able to produce what it is that's important to you in life, though you try and try and try. So a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of assumptions around what the law of attraction is and what it means, and the idea that I can just think about what I want, focus on what I want, and I'm going to get it, and I'm going to be happy, is often, the first impression a lot of people get, and it feels like a sense of power and a sense of control. But what a lot of people don't realize that's happening, and you may have come to this point of realization already, is that something seems to be getting in the way for most people that I know. A lot of people that I deal with and work with and have worked with over the last 20 years of my life have been attempting to implement these ideas, and these ideas do not come from just Abraham Hicks or Jerry Nestor Hicks and their their books or their events and their videos. That is relatively new. This idea is old. It's been around for many, many, many years, since the early 1900s. An author, Ernest Holmes, wrote a book called The Science of Mind, which I was turned on to before I ever heard about Abraham Hicks. And he has a chapter in his book called The Law of Attraction. And he's distinguishing this principle and the power of our mind and the ability to attract and create whatever it is that we're seeking to create in our lives by using the power of the mind. So I got onto this early on before the Abraham Hicks wave took off. I'm talking about, this is back in the early 2000s. And before I had heard about them anyway. And what I found is that affirmations were powerful and they were beautiful and they were super supportive in a lot of ways, but they were not producing the results that I wanted at times, and I couldn't understand that. And for a lot of people that I knew, they also were doing affirmations, and again, maybe they weren't necessarily studying the law of attraction per se, but they were doing the things of a law of attraction. Then the movie like Secret comes out, and Abraham Hicks became very popular, and all that material starts to come out, and more people were doing this and attempting to use this principle and experiencing things that they didn't want and sabotaging themselves from achieving specific successes, or aiming for certain things and not getting it, or wanting to manifest a certain relationship and not getting it. And it was just like infuriating for a lot of people, frustrating. People would be unsure of what's going on. Well, it happened to me as well. And I was wondering, what the heck? Why is it that I can't create what I want? Why is it that I say I want this, I put my word to it, I affirm it, I write it down, I do vision boards, digitally and print and on poster board, and and I'm focusing, and I'm even allowing myself to take actions, but it wasn't working. I wasn't getting all the things that I wanted, and sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. And what I've come to discover that was getting in the way was something that I just felt more in my own body first. And then I began to work with other people around this as I discovered in myself what was happening. But I noticed that there was a certain resistance in my own body that was below the conscious level, below the awareness level. And it was there, it was present, and it was inhibiting me. And I could sense that it was inhibiting me. And even as I was doing affirmations, I could feel a resistance in my body. But I wasn't conscious of what it was, and I didn't seem to be able to reduce it or remove it, and no affirmation was undoing it. And sometimes even doing affirmations caused me to experience even more resistance in my body, or more emotional resistance. And the good thing about this discovery for myself was I began to notice the conflict, and I began to question what this conflict was. Well, I began to find out what it was, and I began to realize that there's a dimension of our mind through my study of behavioral psychology and different mental sciences and psychological perspectives and theories, and actually applying that knowledge to working with people and processing people, coaching people, helping people to hack their own mind. For many, many years, I began to discover the inner workings of the subconscious mind. And I began to understand that the subconscious mind is comprised not just of thought and ideas or words or language even, but there are images, there are feelings and sensations, there are emotions, there are bodily feelings and sensations. When I say feelings and sensations that are present, that seem to be recorded in the nervous system in the brain a certain way, and they are not accessible through our ordinary linguistic, cognitive, or mental approach. We just can't get to it. And so I started to realize that this thing that was inhibiting me was also present for others as I began to explore. How do they feel? What's going on? And as I began to create more focused work in this direction, one-to-one and in small groups that I formed, and we started dealing more with the subconscious realm and accessing the hidden experiences within the body and the hidden emotional experiences, and actually starting to navigate emotional terrain, I began to realize there's a very different dimension of mind that's more than just thought, and that actually has a different form of linguistics that are not necessarily like verbal language. Its own language or its own linguistics is sensational, or it's felt, and it can be understood, and it can be encountered, and it can be accessed, but it has to be done in a certain way. And so without doing this, the law of attraction actually can not work for us the way that we want it to. It's working still, but what is the point of attraction inside of us is actually not just our thought, but it's actually our emotion, and it's our somatic or bodily conditioning. And so you hear about this vibrational frequency that we must vibrate at to have some vibrational equivalent to that which we want to manifest. So if I want to create lots of money, or a certain healthy relationship, or a loving, positive relationship in my life, well, I need to be vibrating at that level. True. But the problem is, I don't see a lot of people teaching about how to actually come into that vibrational level that is truly effective for dealing with this subconscious content and conditioning that prevents people from getting what it is that they actually want. So the first thing we need to understand is that there is a dimension that we're working with, and the first dimension is thought. And that dimension is where we language our reality, how we codify our reality in language. And so that's important to work with that dimension. We can journal, we can write out what we want, we can think about it, we can talk about it. That's all connected to the thought realm primarily. When we're speaking, we also can engage emotion, which is important that we do. And so emotion would be the second realm. And this is all, when it comes to raising your vibration, right? We need to elevate emotion and thought. We also need to elevate, and I distinguish this from emotion, feelings. I call it feelings and sensations. You might call this, I'll put parentheses, body. This is, there are happenings in the body. Sometimes we feel tension in our chest or butterflies in our stomach. These are feelings, these are sensations. And it's important to be aware of that, present to these, conscious of them, and to tune in. Emotion would be feelings like anger, or emotions are, I distinguish that from feelings, but I say like the experience of anger inside, that wave of anger, the impulse of anger, grief, sadness, apathy, like total despair. Joy is an emotion. Enthusiasm is an emotion. Those are the higher emotions. When I say higher, they're just a higher frequency, right? As we get down to apathy, we get to lower frequency. So emotion is really important. When it comes to hacking the law of attraction, hacking ourselves and making law of attraction work for us, we need to know how to hack these dimensions of thought, emotion, feelings, sensations in the body. And then, of course, action, right? Because if action isn't happening, so be it. We're not going to really get anything done, right? Action is what produces the results in our life. But it starts in thought, starts in emotion next, and starts in feelings, sensations through the body, which lead to action. There's a sequence of creation, and all of these levels need to be raised in their level of vibration and frequency. What happens though, what most of us may not be aware of, is that through traumatic injury, through traumatic interpersonal relationship experiences, certain conditions in thought and emotion and feelings and sensations in the body are formed. And I say conditions, they are like hardwired now into our nervous system, into our brain. They're affecting the body, and they can be restimulated. They can be in chronic restimulation, which means they can be firing continuously and can actually be producing a chronic frequency of being that could be present, and yet we can change our thought and say, I want to create a healthy, positive relationship, but my body, my emotions, my feelings and sensations are conditioned from my past so intensely that I keep manifesting relationships that are unhealthy, or that just reflect what it is I say I don't want. And even though I do know what I want, I can define that relationship in my head, I can write it down, I can tell other people about it, I can say what I want and what I don't want, but then I find myself still attracting something that I don't want instead of what I want. Why? Because the realm of emotion, feeling, sensation, and even our habits is not changed. Even certain areas of our thought realm, our conscious thought may be changed, but there may be unconscious thoughts still that haven't been changed. So in order to hack the law of attraction and make it work for us, we need to hack ourselves, and we need to hack the machinery that we are. So I would say that this is the human machinery. All right, so human machinery is comprised of thought, emotion, feelings, sensations, and action. The machine of human being. I don't believe that you are the machine of human being. I believe that we operate the machine of human being, but most of us don't have the user manual. We never were trained on it. We pretty much are handed a default user operational pattern for our machinery. In other words, we think and we emote and we feel and have sensations in our body. We take certain actions based on what was modeled for us. And that's what we're handed off. And then we're supposed to use that to succeed. And this machine can be very dysfunctional because we were handed down dysfunctional, instructional, and programmatic and operational patterns. And so we can try all that we want to produce something we love and value, and we end up getting crap instead. All right? So we need to be able to access the subconscious content of thought, emotion, feelings, and sensations in the body, and hack our actions through that. Because the actions are governed by everything above. We act according to what we feel and sense in our body. Right? If you feel fear in your body, if you feel the emotion of fear and the sensations that accompany the fear emotion, you're going to act a certain way. Right? And so when all this is going on unconsciously, you don't have a chance of consciously creating your life. You're being driven by unconscious impulses. And so the unconscious impulses actually become the more dominant frequency and source point of your attraction rather than your conscious intent. Now, in some people who are a little bit more clear, their thought, emotion, feeling, sensation, and actions are congruent already because maybe their life was pretty decent and pretty good, and they had patterns given to them that were more functional and supportive. For those people, they can jump into the ideas of law of attraction and start using it and really create an amazing life real quick. But for most of the people I know, that's not how it's working. For most of the conversations I had, I know far less people who are successful with law of attraction and far more people who are failing at using it to create what it is that they want consciously. They're always creating what they ought to be creating based on their frequency and condition of being. Right? It's the law of attraction's always working, otherwise it wouldn't be a law. But the problem is we want to work with this law and use this law to produce a life that we enjoy and that we value, and stop repeating the same problems and patterns of pain and hurt and suffering that we keep encountering. So I've just been specializing for the last 12 years really intensely. 20 years I've been focused on transformation work because I had to transform myself from the life of a criminal and a drug dealer and drug user who nearly died in 1999 to someone who could live a decent life. I realized it wasn't working and I needed to do something radical to turn myself around. And I was able to hack myself and hack my own thought, emotion, feelings, sensations, and actions, and change my life into one of service rather than one of greed and selfishness and taking and perpetuating suffering in myself and in the lives of others. So I did a 180-degree turn, and I didn't know the law of attraction. I didn't know anything about that stuff. There was just different ways I got to make those changes. But I've learned that I can codify what I did and what I was shifting by explaining these dimensions. And so if you want to get into yourself and really modify your frequency, it's going to take a heck of a lot more than just writing what you want and even getting excited about it, although that's important. What also is necessary is to clear the foundation. I want to kind of draw a diagram and show this out for you guys. So I'm going to put it over on this side right here. Let me use this. Black. So let me explain. So here we have, let's say that's conscious thought, and we have unconscious thought. In both realms, we have our positive and negative thoughts, right? Those are just like negative signs in red. Now we've got positive signs here. So this is the stuff we're conscious of. Down here, we've got positive conditioning, meaning it's supportive, it's congruent to us living a purposeful, contributional, healthy life. And then there's all this negative content down there. So I'll just say this is the conscious, and we'll call this the subconscious, sub-C. Okay, and so what we need is we need to access this realm. We need to access from the conscious mind. We need access to the subconscious, and we need to move into this domain because we can even get this all configured, right? We can configure our conscious mind to be mostly, let's say mostly positive. Okay, so we've got more positive thoughts, conscious thoughts than negative, maybe just a few negative thoughts. But we're still carrying inside of us, and this is in our body, in our nervous system, and in different areas of the brain that our conscious awareness does not see. Doesn't mean we can't see it, it just means we haven't been trained and guided and supported in getting into this domain. So, most of us are trained to think in this realm of conscious thought and to operate up here, and it's important that we do, but there's a huge domain of our mentality and our emotional nature and our bodily nature that we're not accessing because no one's ever teaching us this. So I've specialized in how to get access to this because I needed it for my own transformation, how I was going to change. I conditioned myself consciously and subconsciously to being a criminal and a drug dealer and a drug user. How do you break free from that? How do you radically change it? I mean, I haven't touched cocaine, which was one of the drugs I used that was, the cause of my near dying. Not the only one, it was a mixture of things, but that was one that I like to use a lot of. How did I go from using that and giving up that addiction to, that not just the drug, but the lifestyle and everything involved with it, the money, everything, and change myself? I had to break into this domain, and I did so without all the knowledge that I have today. It was more of an intuitive, feeling guided, very gracious blessing from life. I just stumbled onto things, and I had certain kinds of support and mentors show up in my life, and I was intensely, seeking and asking for help in my soul, so to speak, and just saying, please help me, guide me, direct me. And that sheer intentionality got me connected to this inner realm, helped me process a tremendous amount of pain and hurt that was in me. And I began to experience a life of freedom, a life of love, and a life of abundance, and just in so many different ways. I would not have been able to explain it the same way that I can now, though. So what we need to do is get into this world, and we need to get into this realm. And so I help men and I help women do this on a regular basis. I run a program called Leadership Influence and Team Training Program, where we're training people on how to serve others and getting into this domain and free up that content that's in there that's holding them back, and just help them get access to that and really bring love and respect and honor and nurture to everything in the subconscious. Now, most of us, you got to understand, are conditioned to suppress certain things that happen to us. We go through a painful moment in life, we lose someone that we love, maybe we go through a breakup. I know a girl who was raped at one point, and she just was so ashamed and embarrassed by it, she didn't want to tell anybody. She suppressed that and became repressed. She forgot about it, and it manifested later in some suicidal thoughts as a result, because it was just sitting in the subconscious, and there was all this deep sense of shame, but she had wrote it off, and it was out of her conscious mind, but it didn't disappear. This stuff is not gone just because we're not aware of it. It impacts our present reality and affects our ability to create what we want. And so to hack ourselves and to hack the law of attraction and make it work, we need to get into the subconscious region. So it's important that we learn how to tune into this realm. Our brain typically operates in a beta brainwave frequency throughout the day, which has us more externally oriented. It's an important frequency to have. Most of us are operating in a higher stress state than we need to be, and a higher beta state than we need to be. And the way to come out of that is through relaxation. So relaxation is the first hack. This is why many people and geniuses in the past, they would be working on these problems intensely and super focused and whatever, and they would just get stuck and they would just relax. They would take a bath. They would just chill out. They would meditate. They would lay on a couch and they would let go completely. And then a flood of new ideas would come through their subconscious mind and this problem would be solved. They'd figure out what was missing to produce, an effective invention of sorts. And this is just documented all over the place. And it's important that we learn to relax so we can have access to this inner realm, which is full of intelligence, but it also can be full of pain and hurt and all kinds of shadows. We call this shadow work when we're dealing with this subconscious content. The shadows are actually characteristics that have very distinct qualities that we can get into conversation with. The problem is many of us believe that what's in this realm that we've shoved down there deserves to stay there, and we don't want anyone to know. So for example, I witnessed my mother being abused severely starting around the age of 10 or so, and that had a lot of impact on me, and I was ashamed of it. I was embarrassed. I felt like powerless, helpless. I shoved it all down. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to deal with it, but it was affecting every area of my life. It's why I ended up in gangs and drug dealing and all that other stuff in part. There were other influential factors, but I'm sure I was greatly driven because I've looked at myself and I've discovered it, and it can drive me to terrible things. And it did. And only when I finally got in touch with what was in there and I faced it, I felt it, I embraced it, I was able to heal a lot of these wounds that I was carrying that I just tucked away, and a lot of anger was there, and I'm still to this day I'm doing a lot of processing around my life and my experiences, and it's ongoing work. But I tell you what, if you want to have a successful life and you want to be able to use the law of attraction, knowing how to access the subconscious is key. Now, the way to do it, I said in step 1, is relaxation is like the most important thing. Relaxation. Relaxation can help us get in touch with what's there, but in reality, what I found for those of us that have a more severe or more heavily impacted by traumatic events through relationships, it's virtually, if not absolutely, impossible to access on our own. We need the support of another individual who can be attentive, and with their attention and their willingness to see what's in there, with our willingness to see what's in there and to bring love and acceptance to what's in there, the combined intention of another or a group of people plus yourself makes this realm very much more accessible. It's also a much safer way to go about it. There's a couple factors here. When we have people present that we feel safe with and trust, our nervous system knows this, and we know that we can relax even deeper. And so in order to get into that realm, like I said, first thing we got to be able to do is we got to, let's say, relaxation. Relax. Relax is the key. All right? Relaxation is the key. That's my key. Relaxation is the key. But in order to relax deeply and powerfully, we also need support. And that's support from another person. So we need to relax, and 2, we need support. And support means we need other people. Yay. We need other people. We need other people to help us go deep, to feel safe, and to be witness to whatever's going on inside of us, because we feel so much shame about it. And that shame that we feel, we are suppressing, and it has been repressed. It's just anchored deep in there, and we don't want to see it ourselves. We don't want anyone to know it. And so we're in deep resistance to this subconscious realm. And so that messes up our ability to consciously attract what we say we want in our conscious mind. We end up attracting other events and people and situations that are showing us what's going on in the subconscious realm. So we got to get down into this space, and we got to give love and acceptance to it, which is something we typically aren't going to do on our own. We're already conditioned and have conditioned ourselves to not appreciate any of this content in there. So it takes a trained group of others, a prepared group of others, ideally, to help us witness that space and to bring acceptance to it. And, we follow suit when the group is like, it's okay. We see you, we feel you, we love you, we accept you for that. We bring honor and respect to that. Then you're able to do that. Because the majority wins. And so that's why I say it's so important to have support. It's not just relaxing on our own, although that can be helpful, but having support of the proper type of people who are trained and ready and available for this work. It does wonders. And so we need support to be able to go deeper and to experience the love. And the other thing that we need is, and it's going to be a general thing, the tools. There are tools. There are tools. There are techniques. There are practices. Okay? We need tools, techniques, and practices. All of those will be like the third part. Tools, techniques, and practices to navigate, to transform, to alter, to adjust, to be able to, access the different regions of subconscious. And so I've been spending, I'd say, the last 12 years of my life intensely focused on the tools, techniques, and practices. The relaxation and support part I really knew. I had some tools, techniques, and practices, but I got hyper focused on this when I had a marriage that I was in for 4 years, and my ex-wife had a tremendous amount of trauma in her background and pain, and there was so much anger and hurt coming up, and I just didn't understand how to support her through what she was dealing with. I just didn't seem to be able to be successful with her, and I wanted to, and it just drove me nuts, literally. There was so much pain, I couldn't bear it. It actually hurt me, and I got so hurt and upset by it, but I loved her, I cared, I wanted to be able to do something, but I had to leave the relationship because I was failing miserably in my own life and in that relationship, and I knew it, and I knew if I didn't leave, it was going to be terrible for both of us. So I did, but I didn't leave and just be like, okay, that's the end of that. I was like, I want to know, what was I missing? And answers came, and I began to study and research and then practice the things I was learning with other people that were showing up in my life, and I began to, and other friends and stuff like that, and new relationships that I formed, and I began to apply these techniques just as a practice, just to test them and see them, and these tools, and I was like, wow, and I had all these different ways of accessing the subconscious mind, helping to rehabilitate the conscious mind, and help an individual develop their imaginative power, their creative power, tremendous amount of tools. So I think I have a huge toolbox and a huge, just database of resources. And I teach and I train around this so people can learn how to do this, not only for themselves, but they can actually support other people. Because in my opinion, nothing's more important than the work that I'm doing right now, which means I'm obviously on the right path. I think everybody should feel that about what they do. But if you really want to create the life you want, and you want to use the law of attraction, you absolutely have to be able to hack your own subconscious. So the law of attraction, it's always working, but what many of us don't understand or know, and I don't often hear being said, is that this subconscious region is way greater, it has way more magnitude than the conscious part of our mind. I've heard teachers like Joe Dispenza say something like 90% of our behavior is governed on a day-to-day basis by our subconscious mind. So it behooves us to become aware of how to be aware of this dimension and actually transform it. Because if not, it's running our life. Most of what our life is governed by is that domain. So we got to get in touch with that. Now, this is a more general video. I'm not getting into specific how-to, but the hacks, the first hacks you need to know is, the human machinery. You need to know how the human machinery functions. Then you need to know what there is to do to get into the subconscious part of the human machinery, which is relaxing, having the right support and guidance, and the tools and techniques have to be there as well so that you can actually navigate that territory. So it's just like an adventure, like a Lord of the Rings adventure, right? You're going out into the world on a journey, right? They got to take the ring to the top of this, mountain, whatever their purpose is. But on the journey, there's a need for different skill sets, and that warrior spirit, so to speak, has to be present to penetrate and deal with all the territory, because in the subconscious can be very volatile, and there can be a lot of anger and resentment and bitterness and shame and guilt and all these things that they're easily manageable with the right guidance and the right people who know and have been there. I myself have dealt with a lot of this, and I've been on the brink of suicide and overwhelmed by the content of my subconscious mind. So I understand the dangers of it greatly, and I've worked with tremendous amount of people who also have struggled severely because they didn't know why. It was something hidden from them, but we've brought it to light using the tools and the techniques and the practices that bring that stuff to light, and we basically show people how to create an experience of radical self-love, by loving this subconscious content. And it's wonderful. It's very healing. It's very empowering. And then what's great about it is that one can truly live their purpose with maximum power, because our conscious mind alone is not enough. Our sheer willpower is not enough. We're all working against our subconscious to some degree. There's something in us working against us. I don't know anyone who doesn't have some of that. The real secret to success that I think people need to be talking about is hacking the subconscious, transforming the content, embracing it with all kinds of radical self-love, which really is going to take a tremendous amount of support, because as I said, we're mostly ashamed of what's in here, which is why we're not accessing it in the first place. The things that hurt us, the people that hurt us, the events we went through, the things we've done that we're ashamed of, that we don't want anyone to know about. We mostly don't love any of that stuff. But it's there, it's in us, it's recorded. And so we're against ourselves. We have a schism in our psyche and our emotions, and we're at war internally, and we're trying to live a successful life. We're trying to use law of attraction, and it doesn't work. So what does work is learning how to love all those components, and that's really all I do with the people that I'm working with, is help them to do that. So if you're interested in learning more, there'll be links in the description here. You can find different ways to participate in this work. We've got the free men's and women's groups that you can come to and start a light level version of this work. If you're more interested in, if you've been doing some of this work, you want to go deeper into it, and you want to train with a awesome group of people and become a facilitator of this work with me and my team, then you can actually check out the Leadership, Influence, and Team Training Program. We've got the Core Encounter if you just want to do the work yourself, in Humanity Rising, which are a coupled event, a 2-day event plus a 6-week program with a facilitator, so that you can just go super deep and learn all these tools, have all the support that you need, and all the freaking, the love and the connection and the compassion and the empathy that you just can't get even in your best family relationships sometimes. People just don't understand. Well, we're really specialized in understanding this realm and how to bring love and compassion no matter what it is that shows up, no matter how dark, no matter how scary, no matter how painful, no matter how fearful, no matter whatever it is. We love on all of that, and we show you how to love yourself for all of that. And we teach you how to get access to that, and you do it. And we're not just giving you like instruction manual, we're actually doing the work. So if you're interested, click any of the links below. I'd love to connect with you. You can have a conversation with me. Vince Polito, again, I help you live your purpose with maximum power. And this is one of the ways that we make that happen, probably the most important. So if you're looking to hack the law of attraction, make it work in your life, come check out what we're doing. I send you love and blessings and lots of success in your journey and your adventure back to discovering the wholeness and completeness and perfection that you are. Okay, we'll talk soon. Take care.